All big changes start with a swift kick in the ass.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of A Swift Kick in the Ass. This is your host, John Curren. Today, I have a guest by the name of Starr Penn. She is the founder of the JIA Blueprint, and she's going to come on here in just a moment or two and talk about the creation of this blueprint that is dealing with juvenile arthritis. Be quite honest with you, I'm not that familiar with juvenile arthritis. I'm not a doctor. I don't believe Star is either, but I do believe that she is a nutritionalist and she has a great deal of knowledge and information and expertise actually on this subject. Hope you find this interesting, and we'll get started in just a minute. Okay, here she is. So, welcome to another episode of A Swift Kick in the Ass. This is your host, John Curran. I have with me today Starr Penn, the founder and creator of the JIA Blueprint. And I'm going to let her do a lot of the talking because, quite honestly, I don't know all that much about uh, JIA, also known as juvenile arthritis.
Mhm.
Um, so I guess maybe really the best question just to first ask you is what what is juvenile arthritis and what kind of made you learn about this?
Okay. Well, juvenile arthritis is what it sounds like. It's arthritis, and it's kind of an epidemic happening now. It's starting to affect children. So something that we would have normally considered like an old person's disease is now affecting children, and the medical community is calling it JIA. They're calling it juvenile idiopathic arthritis because that terminology suggests that they don't know why this is happening to
Is
kids.
this through the body or is this just in the hands? Like arthritis, right? Like
Hmm.
that's my understanding of it is it has to do with the joints and well, actually, I think there's different types of arthritis.
There is.
Um, because I think rheumatoid arthritis is where the body actually attacks itself.
Hmm.
Um, but with the arthritis that I'm familiar with, it has to do with the joints and calcium formations or something like that that makes it very rough, very painful. Um, and as you get older, a lot of people get arthritis. I have issues. I have a genetic condition with my hands called Dupuytren's contracture,
Okay.
which is a genetic condition that deposits collagen in my hands. So I've had operation. Like if you see, it's like that's as straight as I can get my finger, and
Yeah.
that's after two surgeries.
Hmm.
Xyloflex, which is an enzyme which they shoot into your hand. So I know
Hmm.
like a little bit about nothing. That's why.
Right. Hmm. And yeah, so the arthritis that we're familiar with, rheumatoid arthritis, we think of with older people where different minerals are depositing in places in our joints where they're really not supposed to, and it's getting the reaction from the immune system saying, "Hey, you don't belong here," starts to try to get that calcium or mineral or
Okay.
whatever out of the joint, and then it creates this inflammatory response. What's happening now with the explosion of just autoimmune disease in general. I focus with juvenile arthritis because that's my story. My
Yeah.
daughter was diagnosed with juvenile arthritis when she was 9, and she's 22 now, and so I was able to reverse
Yeah.
it, the condition. But
You were
this,
able to reverse the condition.
yeah.
So what was happening with your daughter?
Well,
Like,
yeah, and we'll get into that as to like
okay.
really, yeah, no, like you're to answer your question, because it's I'm gonna have to answer that, and then it's gonna bring up more questions
Okay.
probably.
Okay.
But for her and for a lot of my clients, what her symptoms weren't joint pain at first, but there was always something. So things that I would have never connected as having the same root cause,
Mm-hmm.
and it's what is contributing to really all of the autoimmune issues that people are dealing with today. There's an explosion, right? Of, MS, lupus, type 1 diabetes, different neurological things that are going on with
Yeah, a
people.
lot of chronic illness, right? Stuff that you get that sticks with you.
Right, right. And I mean, thyroid is going out of control for people, the Hashimoto's and the eye bulging. And it's like, what is going on? And we think
Yeah,
all of a sudden, like our grandparents didn't have this. And it's really, when you look at it from a nutritional perspective, a functional perspective, more naturopathic, or even the way that they used to practice medicine, over 100 years ago, this would have been clear understanding. But with the medical route, they're looking at symptom and band-aid solution type of medicine. So they're going after the symptoms of things.
right.
But all of these things are connected. So when Serafina was born, like literally born, she was constipated, which is weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
Should be perfect. And that was dismissed at the pediatrician. So in hindsight, right? At the
Yeah.
time, it's like, okay, okay, I'm a baby. And they're like, oh, she's breastfed. They don't go that much. But yeah, I saw her in pain. I saw her distended. It just wasn't adding up what they were saying.
Mm-hmm.
And they had me giving her Miralax and different things as an infant, so I'm
Right.
doing that. Then down the road, she started with GERD, which is like an acid reflux, but
Okay.
projectile vomit. Well, that's really weird. Uh,
Yeah.
again,
And
these are
messy.
all, yeah. So again, these are just different, they were different signals that her immune system was sending me. In hindsight, I know that now because I've educated
Mm-hmm.
myself in it. But at the time, and I hear a very similar story with a lot of my clients. Sometimes it's skin issues.
So
Serafina,
go back to the GERD. You
yeah.
said projectile vomiting.
Hmm.
That gets my attention.
Hmm. Hmm.
How often was this happening? And I mean, what were you like? And the reason I ask is my kids just got the stomach flu, and or I don't know what they got.
Right.
We're on our way back from Atlanta
Hmm.
over the holidays, and they got something on the ride back, I guess. Chicken nuggets, because my wife and I were fine, but yeah, projectile vomiting was part of my
Right.
New Year's
Um,
festivities. But no, so I mean, so I attribute that to food poisoning.
hmm.
That happened one time.
Right.
But so was this how frequently was this happening?
It's hard to remember. It was enough to send me to the pediatrician.
Okay.
This is
Wow.
weird. Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't like a virus, it was like all of a sudden,
That's
just across like The
oh
Exorcist
my God.
as a baby. So it's enough to send you to the pediatrician. And so we were told then, oh, well, put some rice cereal in her breast milk and get it like more solid so she keeps it down. And of course I did that.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seemed to help and not help. And I think just like with the other things, she just kind of outgrew it and it turned into another thing and another thing. So it's really the immune system is going through the body and finding, and I'll get to the explanation, it's finding these toxins in the body. See, we're told when we go to the medical doctor with, let's just say specifically juvenile arthritis, but this goes for, the whole umbrella that we're talking about. Let's say you go to your medical doctor with your child, they have a swollen joint, you ask the question, is it just the hands? It could be anywhere in the body. It could be the neck, it
Okay.
could be the
Yeah.
jaw, which is scary because it's near the brain. A lot of kids get inflammation behind the eye, which is called uveitis, which is a lot of times correlated with juvenile arthritis, because of the similar kind of a tissue. But it could be in the shoulder, the elbow, the fingers, the knees, the ankles. It could be anywhere. Um, but what you're going to be told at the medical side of things, and you may have heard this before, okay, well, your immune system is overactive and it's attacking healthy tissue. So what
Mm-hmm.
we need to do is we need to pull the immune system off. And because it's confused and it's overactive and it's destroying this healthy tissue.
Yeah.
Well, what we understand is actually it's inverted. It's the exact opposite. So what's happening at a root level, really to all of us, unless we're really proactively doing something about it, is that toxins are leaking out of our gut lining because of our, let's just say as a blanket statement, because of our environment. Just because of the modern world we live in, but just, and then you can say all the different things that that is, but let's just say it's our environment as a whole. And it's creating this situation that is like, it's our guts becoming a little permeable. The junctions are just kind of they're getting
Mm.
compromised. And so things like just food particles.
So that
Um,
allows things to get into your body, is what you're saying. Because we're like a tube within a tube.
yeah.
So I don't know if you know this about me, but um, I'm trying to think about how long ago this was, 15 years ago, maybe. Um, when my daughter Anna, who's now 19, when she was maybe, I guess, about 8 or 9, she'd give me these big bear hugs right around the small of my back. She and she were strong. Mm. But I'm a big guy. Excuse me. And it was putting me in tears. My 7-year-old or 8-year-old was putting me in tears from giving me a hug. Something was wrong. So I went to the allergist and I found I was sensitive to all these foods. And long story short, it was pretty much dairy.
Hmm.
And I don't eat dairy anymore. But I was getting kind of some of those symptoms that you mentioned
Hmm.
about inflammation. Like I just looked like a marshmallow. I wasn't overweight, but my muscle tone was off. I looked like a marshmallow. And a lot of people just attributed it, oh, you're just getting older. You're not accepting it.
Yeah.
And that's a bunch of bull.
Right.
I was curious enough to get some tests done and go through an elimination diet, which is no fun, which
Mm-mm.
I imagine that you probably
Yeah.
went through.
Hmm.
Just trying to find, like you said, the root of the problem rather than throwing some medication at it to cover, to take away the symptoms.
Hmm.
So I'm sorry, I don't want to get
Nope,
us off the story.
that's
Uh,
good.
you know, I just wanted you to know my background, that I understand kind of what you're saying. So
Right.
to bring us back to where you were, we're a tube within a tube, and just because of environment and
Right. So,
condition,
so
it's
it's yeah, so
leaking
it's
into
the
our body.
opposite. It's the opposite of what we're being told. And once we understand that, and when I talk to people about that and explain, it's like a light bulb goes off. They're like, oh, now that makes perfect sense. Because when we're told your immune system is overactive and confused and it's attacking healthy tissue, well, hey, you don't have much power there. What do you do about that? Right now, there's no cure for something like that. All they have is an immunosuppressant that will silence that immune system.
Which
When
is really bad and can bring other
it
issues,
can, but it's
right?
also really good. I'm not against, immunosuppressants, but we use them as a rescue tool. We want to get our kids out of pain, want
Mm-hmm.
them to be able to heal in peace and calm. We definitely want to stop the destruction of the joint and tissue. So a lot
Yeah.
of the time, a
So it
child,
has its place.
yeah, a lot of time a child will say, we work along with the rheumatologists in the sense that not that we communicate with them, but we're not against, using
Okay.
Western medicine. I mean, there's marvels, right? Western medicine is full of, it's
Yeah.
amazing, what we can do so that we can actually take something that actually controls the immune system and can say, stop doing that. That's helpful because now we can heal. We can get a lot of detox done. We can get a lot of healing done while the immune system lays off the area. But the problem is in relying, it's my hand. The problem is relying on the medication because we're not dealing with the root issue. So what's really happening is that toxins are flooding all our bodies. The way the joints and tissue, the reason why a lot of times that's one of the earlier things, usually not the first. The skin a lot of time is first.
Okay.
Stomach upset, gas, things like that. A lot of times come first. But we ignore those because, it's
Yeah.
not something in our life, but by the time it gets to the joints, the way the body is so wonderfully made is that the fatty tissue and joints in the body, they act as magnets for toxins. So they go ahead and take them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how our body works, right? We're exposed to chemicals in our car and on our couch and on our carpet and the paint. And, we've been fine. And so our body knows how to do this. It grabs up this is going on all unbeknownst to
Yeah.
us all the time. The fatty tissues grabbing the toxins, keeping that out of the way from the immune system's view. Then it slowly kind of releases them in dribs and drabs, not really bothering the immune system so much. And then it, passes through our urine, our liver, our gallbladder. We sweat it out, we breathe it out. And no one's any the wiser that any of that even happened. We can deal with a toxic
Our
load.
bodies are amazing
Right.
and they adapt at whatever we throw at them. I want to go back to something that you said about, you know, stomach upset or, diarrhea or whatever.
Hmm.
A lot of people just live with these things and it becomes a normal part of their life and they look at it as being normal.
Right.
But uh, what I'm kind of thinking as I'm going through the back of my mind, so you're dealing with juvenile arthritis, and what got you on this path was your daughter.
Hmm.
Now, what got me on my path was, you know, my own selfish concerns because I was in pain and I was trying to figure things out, and I needed an answer, and I kind of went for the root
Hmm.
of the problem. That's the people like because you aren't dealing with, I mean, you are working with the children and the parents on all of this. So imagine the parents kind of have to be self-directed too. I mean, like you said, work in hand with your medical provider, but take direction. I mean, take control of what you can control and
Right.
don't expect the doctor to do everything for you and, you know, give you this miracle pill that's going to
Mhm.
solve your problem.
Yeah, because all you're doing with that pill is you're kicking the can down the road. And then when when what happens with kids, with an adult, if you get prescribed a biologic for something, it's pretty much a lifetime. They say that this is what you need for life. But with a kid, I don't know
What's
why.
a biologic? I don't know.
So it's immunosuppressant medication. So biologics are like Humira and Celebrex. You see them advertised on
Okay.
TV all the time, either for psoriasis or for Crohn's disease. But that same medication, because as I'll get into this, really all one thing. You know, we have a symptom of juvenile arthritis. We have a symptom of lupus, a symptom of thyroid
Mm-hmm.
disease, uveitis, but really the root cause of all the autoimmune, hormonal, neurological, mystery, chronic illness, things like that, have one root cause that kind of tips that domino over and then brrr, and so we
Okay.
can and that's what we see in our modern days. So many illnesses, things you never even heard of before. Our grandparents would have been like, what? So it's really all one root thing. So yeah, Humira can work for a whole
Okay.
array. It's really a matter of which immune cells this medication is able to turn on and off. There's a few different biologics that kind of really know which cells to go at that they have
Mm-hmm.
power over. They don't have power over the whole entire immune system. And that's what we like about biologics, that they don't shut down the entire immune system. Before biologics, what most doctors will put somebody on with an autoimmune disease is methotrexate. And that is an old chemo medication.
Mm.
And
Doesn't sound good.
unfortunately, I know, and unfortunately, the insurance, and now we're getting into but the insurance companies make you do the methotrexate first, even though they know it
Okay.
does work. But what it does is
Shuts
it's
down your
weaker
immune
than
system, right?
yeah, it's weaker than chemo, but sometimes kids get mouth sores, and I mean, yeah, but it's just this one like boom, like it just shuts down the immune system. So, then we create an environment in the body where things like your kid's virus would just live rent free, it would never get expelled. The immune system would never
Right.
detect it. It would never go after it and clean house. So now you're full of all these underlying infections and things that are able to just so the methotrexate in itself, if you don't do something in tandem like what we do, yeah, you might be temporarily be like, oh, great, that football or baseball, if a knee went down, great, he can get back to sports. But what you don't realize what's happening is what's going on behind the curtain there. Anytime I have my clients will say, my kid's on methotrexate, and the doctors don't explain this. Oh, my kid's on methotrexate and it suppresses the immune system, but they don't get sick ever. It's like people think that if you don't have an immune system, you're actually going to get sick. No, it's the other way around. If you don't have an immune system, your body's never going to,
I know. Yeah.
it's going to allow these things to just live in your body. It's not going
And it
to,
just adapts to
yeah,
whatever. Wow. You know what? I never really looked at it like that.
yeah.
Um, and I think about this kind of stuff a lot because, I know how much nutrition impacted me. And in fact, I'm a firm believer that refined sugar, had a huge impact on what I perceived as anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like anxiety. It was not anxiety because I wasn't fearful of the future, which is what anxiety
It was
is.
just like why
It
am
was
I?
in my stomach. In the pit of my stomach, I actually came up with a name. His name was Mortimer because I meditate and I would ask Mortimer,
Mm-hmm.
how are you serving me? And tell me what I need to do to make you go away, basically. And I went through a whole process learning about how to deal with Mortimer. But in the long run, it came back to getting a blood test, seeing that my my glucogen, I think it was, the
Right.
levels were high.
Mm-hmm.
My doctor friend saw it and he says, John, you need to ask your doctor about these numbers because they're high. So I went on a diet, like a sugar withdrawal diet, and Mortimer went away. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and I practice martial arts as well, and I recognize, through martial arts, you learn your body, like you learn how your body moves, and I learned that a little tweak, a little change in foot position gives you tremendous power, and I
Mm-hmm.
think the same thing applies to your health.
Yeah.
A small little tweak can make
All the
huge
difference.
difference in your world. And that's where it comes back to getting back to the root and the
Mm-hmm.
core issue. When you attack it like that, you can make headways instead of just putting a band-aid
Yep.
on
Mm-hmm.
things. But the leaky gut, I didn't really think about that. You know, I do a prebiotic fiber
Mm-hmm.
um, that I just add to chocolate milk. It's odorless, it's tasteless. Mm. And I have almond milk. That's almond milk,
Right. I
not dairy,
figured. Yeah.
not dairy. Um, but I feel a whole lot better for that. But so I know and
There's
I've done
something.
prebiotics like where they have all you putting like a million bacteria into your stomach or
Mm-hmm.
something like that, and you're like, should I be doing this?
Yeah.
I mean, I've
Oh, it's
tried
good.
those things,
Yeah.
but it never made sense, like why I was doing that.
Right. Yeah.
You need
You're gonna find it really I know you're gonna find it really interesting because even those things, right, that and a lot of my clients, by the time they come to me and they're ready to really dive in and dig in, because this is a very high touch program, the JIA
hmm
Blueprint. It's not just information. It's not limited, it's unlimited. I help moms go from to their desired results. So
yeah.
it takes at least 2 years, and these are my most dedicated fan to really get to the root. It's not
Wow.
just, and yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to get into it. It's not just eliminating this, or even though that is part of it. And then, life happens. And so maybe, they fall off the radar for a little bit, but they're part of my program, part of my group. So I'm always there helping them. I'm going to help them until their child no longer has juvenile arthritis. So the way that the program is structured is that I have a course and it's, just in video modules, short, easy to consume.
Okay.
And then, that way you're knowledgeable, and you understand what you're doing and why. But then along with that, you're part of my community where you have access to me 24/7. So you ask me questions, whether while you're at the grocery store, while you're in car rider line, while you're, sitting up in bed at night worrying about something, or when your kid gets a stuffy nose or they got pink eye, or, and how are we gonna, and so I help my clients in live time all throughout the day as long as I'm awake. And then once a week, I come on live like this for coaching.
Okay.
So it's group
And
coaching.
that sounds very, I mean, very valuable to a person who's
Yeah,
going through that and
it's amazing.
trying to learn and trying to navigate something that's so new to them and they don't know what to do. And I know that a lot of parents can relate to this. I would take a bullet for my kids.
Hmm.
Like I would jump in front of
Yeah.
I I would protect them with my life.
Hmm. You would
Um
take it from them if you would take
yes, and
their disease.
I would
Yeah.
gladly do that.
Yeah.
And when your child is sick, I mean, luckily I haven't had to face
Right.
anything like you've faced.
Right.
But I just know from the little acute illnesses that my children
You're
have
like,
had,
oh,
you
yeah.
know, my heart goes out to them. I would rather be sick
Hmm.
than them. But as you talk, I'm still thinking about my kids
Yeah.
too, and thinking about how
It's epidemic.
one of my daughters has issues with her stomach.
Yeah. It's epidemic. So yeah, we'll talk
Yeah.
about it. I'll help you with some things. But let's see. So yeah, so and then so really so that every single week they can get with me face to face. I take
Hmm.
every person one at a time, and we have a functional doctor in our group. We have a nurse practitioner in our group. We have a chef. We have energy medicine inside the group. So it's not just nutrition. It's grown over the years. It started out the JIA Blueprint just me, but anytime, I sense what my clients really need and where they can have everything in all in one place just to, because as
Yeah.
a mom, oh, your wife, we really emotionally put the responsibility burden, even though it's not, it's equal share, but in our heart, in our mind, we worry and, we
Yeah.
research it. So my goal is to help moms. Really, it's juvenile arthritis, but my client is the mom. I help moms who have kids with juvenile arthritis, right?
Right.
So, to be the wife they want to be, to be the mom to their kids that they want to be, to be the friend that they want, so that they can be them and not all consumed with that, and that so that their child can thrive in the future,
Yeah.
so that whatever their child dreams, wants, wishes to do, you're facilitating that for their future, because that's as parents, right? What we want.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah, we have a psychotherapist in the group. We just had coaching with her yesterday. And I mean, it was just so heartfelt, the emotional support that these moms were getting. And I'm like what you said, you're listening to me, but I'm sitting back and I'm listening to these moms get this emotional support, and I'm applying it to me in
Right,
my life,
right.
and I'm like, free therapy. It's like amazing. So because if we're the truth is, and that's where we're limited with the medical and with the functional approach, if that if we're stressed, if we're in fight or flight, right? As the mom, there's a couple things. Well, our cortisol goes up in our body, and so our
Hmm.
microbiome falls. And so now we're not healthy. And what they're really finding now in science is that in households, we kind of share a microbiome. It just kind of happens over time, like in workplaces, women's periods thing. In homes, we brush up against each
Yeah.
other where, we share a microbiome. And kids and moms especially are very energetically connected. And so a mom could be like, hey, and this and that. And you know what? They
Hmm.
got stuff underneath there. The kids feel it. They got a little bit of fear. They got a little uncertainty. Now their microbiome's going down. So you can throw as much probiotic food at that. You can do this, all these
Right.
nutrition stuff that we're doing, and the kid doesn't feel safe. The kid doesn't feel like the mom's got it, doesn't have that, you know, no healing can happen. So we
Yeah.
can only get so far with like removing something or adding a supplement, or,
Yeah.
we can only get like, oh, I feel better than I did before. That's good. Let me go about my life. But then with these kids, it comes back. Either the arthritis comes back, or like I was saying, it's all connected. They never have another swollen joint again, but now they have type 1 diabetes. And it's like, what? Or now, the daughter has these, debilitating cramps, and they're, got cysts in their,
Mm.
in their ovaries or something. And we're thinking these are two completely unrelated things. Um, First she had juvenile arthritis, now she has PCOS. No, it's all one thing. It's all one thing. Is these toxins are just
Yeah.
distributing all throughout the body, and different organs and areas, they're doing their best to keep those toxins away from the immune system. And that bodily process that I was talking about, it releases the toxins, it goes to the detox organs, the body's not aware. Remember, we're dealing, number one, with children. So their detox ability is, they got smaller. They're smaller bodies, right? Less
Hmm.
places for toxins to hide. They don't have the little fatty wastes that we have and all
Yeah, I was
that
saying
stuff,
they haven't been
right?
going at it as long as we have to
Right.
to build up those toxins. I was going to go back to say it does take, this is a process.
Very
It
much so.
takes a while to figure these things out and know for sure and be confident. Like if you're building a new, it's like kind of like building a new habit. If you're really trying to change your life, you're trying to change your habits because these habits are things that we do that we don't think about. We don't put any thought to, we just do it. Um, and for someone to have a really change their habit and have it be considered long term, it takes a year.
Not 21 days, huh? Like they lied to me and told me.
Yeah, no, no, that's
Oh,
the initial. I mean,
yeah, but
to
no,
get
I
to
understand
get
that.
that's going because you're right. As you go along the path, you're gonna come across stumbling blocks or like what I've noticed in my martial arts training is like as I get better conditioned, I kind of move to a different level. Like my stretching isn't static anymore. My stretching is dynamic and it's different. I've moved it up. That's what you're doing in your process. You
Hmm.
you start here and you start building your knowledge and expertise, and then you hit a problem and you have to figure that out. But then that
Hmm.
moves you up to here.
Right.
It's I mean it's a journey, and I think it's unique for everybody.
It is.
Um,
And
but
these moms become, like you said, these moms become karate experts in their own right.
yeah, right,
Not just me. I mean, I'm learning all the time too. But when they first come into the program, it's like, it's not like, okay, this is the protocol, boom. No,
right.
we have to
Oh, it's not
build.
black and
We
white.
have, yeah, and every single family is handled differently. We're starting somewhere different. We're starting with a different angle. We
Yeah,
have a different priority, different bandwidths for families. The first thing we do when someone enrolls in the blueprint is we get on a one-on-one powwow call where I want to know about all their activities, their jobs, their stress levels, their kids' likes and dislikes, their temperaments, how many kids are in the family, what's their birth order, what's the dynamic with this and that, because I'm going to approach the way that I help each family really based on where they can meet me in that moment. And we're going to just start taking steps forward together, like it's just me and them holding hands, even though I have several. Um, for clients in my group, it can't just be like, okay, here's what you have to go do. Now go and do it.
right.
Forget the fact that your mom has cancer and your husband lost his job and you're in the middle of a move. And, I mean,
Yeah, right.
you just can't. And after you enroll, but you got plans to go on a Disney cruise in 2 weeks. It's like, those are the kind of things that I help people to navigate and to do the best that they can through all of those, ups and downs in life, and like
Yeah.
so they don't just sit get you can give someone I could give them all the knowledge in the world. I can give them all the information in the world, but when something in life comes and knocks you down, you're just going to say, "Oh, forget about it. I can't
Well,
go back to it." But I'm always there to help you continue to, even if it's just one little thing, you
there's
know.
a difference between knowledge and wisdom.
Mm,
And wisdom is being able to apply knowledge.
mm,
So, you're right. you can learn something, and then life comes along and kicks you in the ass,
You know what to do, but you don't. I
and
mean, there's
you
a lot
don't
of things that I know what to do and I don't do it.
right. I mean, that's like in martial arts. That's why you spar, is because you can train all that you want, but when you're in the midst of fighting somebody,
Hmm.
sometimes it's life and death, or it
Yeah.
feels like, and you don't know what you're going to do until you're actually doing it.
And then
Um,
it's coming at you.
or a
Yeah.
musician is a great way too. A musician will practice, but when they go out to play, they're not doing what they're practicing.
Right.
They're applying what they're practicing. So it's kind of the same, you have to learn to apply it in your
Yeah.
in your own way. Are there children like does this affect siblings? Is this like more than just like if juvenile arthritis is in a family, is it just in one of the children, or how does that work?
Well, something like autoimmune disease never happens in a bubble. This is not something you catch. Okay, this is something, it's part of our family's
Okay, part of your
microbiome
family.
makeup, but very rarely do you have more than one child with juvenile arthritis. It's really weird. The mom will have early onset menopause, and the dad will have really bad. I'm just throwing out,
Yeah.
the dad just has like really bad, let's just say, inflammation in his lower back or a quick temper. You're not thinking these things are related at all.
Mm-hmm.
That these things are related at all. They have kids, maybe one seems perfectly fine, super smart, had some eczema when they were a baby, went away, nothing ever happened. We just don't know where that's going to go, because really that leaky gut situation, one kid is not going to develop that in a family and nobody else has it. And I know I keep saying it, but like really, unless we're proactively doing something about it, especially in the United States, but I have clients all over the world. Um, we all have it. We all have a leaky gut. I don't think I mean, I'm not inside everybody's body. I'm not,
Yeah.
crystal ball, but I mean, I'm just putting two and two together. We are inoculated much more than we were in the past. We have pesticides all over our food. Our water's polluted. We have access to so many just medicines
Mm-hmm.
in our cabinets, and we just pop ibuprofen for this, that, and that, and that. I mean, never in history have we put such a toxic burden on the human body. And so we can say, yeah, this kind of started with maybe our grandparents, more processed foods in the
Well,
house and things. Yeah.
yeah. But you know
But
what?
yeah,
Problems weren't labeled back
that
then like
too.
they are today.
That too.
Because,
Yeah.
like, the Putrins contracture, did that happen in the family? Well, they say it's genetic, but,
That's an interesting topic, the genetic. Yeah. And
they
we can
never
talk
said
about that.
it. But
Right.
I remember my grandmother's hands were like, they're like
Right.
claws. Like,
Yeah. And so we could talk about that, the genetic component, because that's a very interesting topic. But we could say like what our grandparents like were exposed to a little bit and how that affected their
mm-hmm.
DNA and what they
Yeah.
were able to pass down. um you know they say, your health, it's not the gun you're loaded, it's the trigger that you pull, right? So we're handed down a certain amount of just, kind of
Mm-hmm.
messed up DNA, and then we can do something. It's not a guarantee. What was it, like 20 years ago they were talking about the BRCA gene and they were cutting women's boobs off saying, oh, you're predisposed.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
now the
That's
study of
right.
epigenetics is saying, oh, that's not true. Like you can have that gene all day long. It's up to you and your lifestyle and your environment, your stress level, your constitution, whether or not that
Yeah,
gene
there's
gets expressed. Epigenetics is a more new science, like maybe 15, 20 years old, where it's really starting to explode and having a real understanding of the genetic code and how malleable it is.
mm-hmm.
So we're all handed a certain genetic code, and then usually not because we're out there living a debauched, crazy, unhealthy life, but just because the world is so toxic, along with the genetic code and just the ignorance of it, that genetic marker flips on in us, and then we develop what they had. But it wasn't like, oh, you were bound to get
Let me
it.
ask you this. So, toxins. Do you think some people could be more immune to toxins than others?
Some people are better detoxers. And so
Okay.
it's not immune. And, going back to our children and why they're developing so many chronic illnesses, you have to think if you try to visualize a leaky gut, toxins pouring out, the different mechanisms grabbing it and letting it go. And then this starts because they're so small and this is happening and it's worse for them than it is for us because they're in a more toxic environment and they're born that way where you and I probably started developing these things in our late 20s, early 30s. Our kids are being born having these symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And our parents, they weren't getting these symptoms until their 50s and 60s. And then we remember seeing our grandma like 80 years old with some weird stuff. But we're living in a period of time where every single generation on earth is suffering the same illness. It's like it's bottlenecked. So with our kids, they're because the amount of toxins that are, pouring out and the state of their gut at such a young age, their detox pathways, their lymph system, their
Mm-hmm.
gallbladder, liver, very responsible, and the colon, it gets backed up. And so that's when the inflammation occurs, is when these mechanisms, the way the body's already designed to take care of these things, it can't take care of it anymore. And then the immune system, now the toxins are kind of like floating around. There's really nowhere else for them to go. And that's when the immune system goes, hey, you don't belong here. Hey, you don't belong here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do my job. I'm the hero. I'm gonna get you out of here. But then so when they do that, when the immune system does that, that creates a byproduct, which then needs to be detoxed. And then it lands. It doesn't, it's
Yeah.
flowing. And then we just have this state of inflammation. We just can't stop it. And that's why the immunosuppressants are so helpful because it just stops the immune system from doing it, but it doesn't do anything about the gut is still pouring toxins into the bloodstream. And what's really important to understand is that nobody's doing anything about the detox, really addressing the organs that need detoxification.
Mm-hmm.
Because at first, it's something we have to start doing like manually. We have to start pulling these things out of the body manually. We do herbal teas, for instance, right? We really want to flush and we need those herbs. They have different properties that
Yeah.
help the body to flush out toxins and calm inflammation. We do Epsom salt baths that pulls toxins out. So when you take a bath,
Mm-hmm.
something like Epsom salt, but you can do baking soda baths, you can do apple cider vinegar baths. But what's really neat about the baths is that when you get into a nice hot bath, it's going to those minerals are going to absorb into your body. And then as the bath cools down, you got to stay in the bath, at least let it get cooler than it was when you got in it. Then the toxins pull out as
Huh.
the water cools down. It
I didn't
pulls
know
out.
that.
So it draws in. I know it's neat. Draws in and then it pulls out. And so they're very detoxifying. And so we have other, detox methods that we use. We drink certain juiced shakes and things like that that really help to like get the gallbladder, really help go through the gallbladder and the liver and like get that moving again.
Mm-hmm.
So there's all these things that we need to do because now, when my daughter was diagnosed, when she was, however many years that is ago now, 12 maybe, I had a BlackBerry. I didn't have a way to research and do all this stuff that these
Yeah.
moms do now. So when I heard about a leaky gut 12 years ago, that sounded like the most cuckoo thing in the world. But now you go to anywhere and there's like, well, there's this leaky gut powder and there's this leaky juice and you do this and leaky gut, leaky gut, leaky gut. So now it's like it's marketed all over the place. Number one, these are synthetic products. They're marketed to an
Right.
emotional need that parents and people have like, oh, I heard I have a leaky gut or I might have a leaky gut. Let me just again, we're a pill popping
That's
society.
right.
So we just
Yeah.
want something that can possibly fix it. So that industry is making a ton of money. And they're not that we have a leaky gut. But what about all the detox organs? Well, so there's still so much more that needs
Mm-hmm.
to be done, more than just eliminating food, more than just taking a probiotic, but it's just multidimensional what really needs to be done. We
Yeah.
need to completely rebuild the body, cell by
It's
cell by cell,
it's
every
so
organ.
interesting. So interesting. So you're talking, and I know that you're coming at this from a perspective of juvenile arthritis
Yeah.
and everything that you've learned. But as you're talking, I'm just catching on to all these similarities to my own journey that
Yeah.
I have taken with my own health. And like you mentioned before, you reset your daughters. You said juvenile,
Mhm.
you reset her. I
Right.
feel like I have reset my body
Yeah.
in a number of ways. I'm 59 years old. I don't like to put that out because it times the video, but I'm proud of it, and I'm a second degree black belt in Taekwondo,
Mhm.
and I love it because of a lot for the reasons that you were just talking about, how like getting the movement, getting the physical exercise, getting things moving, getting all the systems that were meant to clean and to detoxify yourself, sweat.
Yeah.
Sweat is a perfect, I mean, that's what it's there for. Get things out of your body. But people are against sweating now.
Oh.
They don't want to sweat.
Oh, yeah. People don't want to sweat. Yeah.
But I love it. And I look, maybe it's because I grew up in Florida,
I love it as
that I'm
well.
used to it. But you know, I don't think it's just one thing that I have done that
Mhm. Yeah.
brought me here today.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I think you have to chip away at it and kind of create your own
Hmm.
story, maybe, or
Yeah.
your own masterpiece.
Hmm.
And a lot of it is based on choice. What I find is once you know that something is causing you issues,
Hmm.
you have a choice. If you want to continue it and continue to deal with the issues, then that's your choice.
Right.
But if you don't want to deal with it, you make the choice and stop.
Hmm.
And the longer you do it, the more you do it, the easier it becomes
Yeah.
because you know what the consequences are and you can feel the consequences. For me, I could feel it. It was like, you know what? That pizza, that buffalo chicken pizza looks really good. And I'm going to get cankles from it because I was actually my feet, my ankles, my calves would just get so inflamed I could barely walk just from the food sensitivity. Um, that doesn't really happen anymore. But
Yeah.
I'd make the choice and I eat the pizza. And
And you pay the price.
yeah, and I paid the price.
Yeah.
But and I think that goes along with your clients as
Hmm.
well too. You have to kind of find the right path, find what works for you, right? Because
Right.
what works for one person may not work for another.
Yes and no. I mean, we do have a very specific protocol that we
Okay.
follow. So it's not like, hey, let's eat healthier, let's try different things. We do have a proven protocol. So I
Okay.
studied under, so the doctor's book that I used in order to heal my daughter, which I tell my clients now, I do believe that 12 years ago, it was easier. I do believe that the kids who are born now are being born sicker, more of them. I think it's more, it's just like it's worse. We're sicker than our parents were at our age. Our kids are sicker. And so I do feel that now it's even hard, it's even more intense and getting more prevalent.
Hmm.
But after I had healed my daughter, I became, I was always, had my regular career, but I did get certified as a health coach, very passionate about this. And I'd work one-on-one with people with their psoriasis, their Crohn's, different things,
Hmm.
but a one-on-one coaching local business situation. And then when I learned that the doctor that created this protocol had she's like, okay, I can't be in everybody's living room. I need coaches that,
Hmm.
she's a practitioner, she's a neurosurgeon.
Okay.
And what
Oh.
her story is that her son, she was a neurosurgeon doctor and in England, and her son was born autistic. And she wasn't accepting the mainstream view. And she
Hmm.
took her knowledge and her expertise and she developed this protocol. And so her practice is she works with autistic children and she speaks all over the world. She's, a big deal. But now she has a program, where people go through every like 6 months and we learn at her feet and we get certified. And now we can go out and actually be her in
Mm-hmm.
people's living rooms and help them. And so that's how, this isn't something that I made up, but it's based on fundamental, like the way we were designed to eat.
Mm-hmm.
But we've lost that, in the modern
Yeah.
culture. We don't even know what we don't even know. So the
You
things
don't
that
even know what you're eating half the time.
Oh, I mean, I have to help my clients to locate hopefully a farm in their area if they can, which you usually can. And, we want to really start sourcing things and eating things the way that we were originally intended to eat. A lot of the things that our ancestors did to their vegetables by like fermenting them in order to keep
Mm-hmm.
them throughout the season.
Yeah.
Well, that's all the nutrition and probiotic and digestive enzymes. And I mean, but this was just their food. They weren't doing it to heal their gut. That was just how they survived. But that's how we were made,
I
to eat
did. I made sauerkraut.
seafood.
I
Yeah.
learned how to make sauerkraut, and
Yeah.
I haven't made it. I have to wait for it to warm up, I think,
Yeah.
again. But easy and
Yeah.
delicious, and that was definitely part of my story as well.
It's so yeah, it really is, but it's so foreign that once my moms they start getting in the kitchen, that's why I don't start them off, let's get going. I teach them how to make this and that. And once their kitchen is sourced and once this has started to feel like second nature to them, not like what am I doing? Then we really start to get to where I'm like, we can do some deep healing now because there's different stages of the protocol. There's where you really go down in almost like a simulated fast type of state. We never actually fast, although adults have every right to fast as often as they want. It's extremely healing, but we're dealing with children. So a lot of
Hmm.
times when their child's body, their child will just lose their appetite and they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, Star, they just won't eat." I'm like, it's the wisdom of the body. Like, imagine the difference between you telling your child, hey, listen, we're not going to eat for 36 hours and they're hungry. But they're telling you, you know what, Mom, I'm not hungry. It's like keep hydrating them with some mineral water with lemon. Make sure if
Hmm.
whatever if they want, a little like a healthy fat, like we call them fat bombs. We do butter and honey in the freezer, something cold, something sweet, because
Hmm.
we like the butter or some sort of a fat along with a little bit of honey because when we're not eating or when we really start to take away from our children all the processed food that they're used to function on, their blood sugar can drop. But we also know if we feed them like a fruit or just honey or something like that, well, it's going to skyrocket.
Hmm.
Then you get that insulin problem. But if we take a little bit of butter and fat at the same time, we get that sustained energy because the fat holds that honey and our body just uses every last bit of it as energy and it never goes and becomes fuel for the bad bacteria. We're still starving out the bad bacteria, but we're getting the energy. So there's all these little tweaks and techniques and things that could put us if we're by ourselves trying to do it kind of in fearful like
Yeah.
tailspin like a reaction that your kids are having and it make you say, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, this is so that's why I help them like all throughout the day because there's all those little decisions that could make you be, oh, I don't know, it's
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing. And so yeah, that's but there's those
Having a coach,
hmm
I mean, I just can't tell people how invaluable I have found it.
right.
Um, you can't know everything. I
And yeah,
mean,
none of us.
we're only as smart as our phones
Hmm.
these days, but it really helped, even if you know generally, there are different levels of knowledge generally associated with any subject.
Hmm.
And knowing those little tweaks, going back to the martial arts, like you said, just butter and honey, bringing together the fats and the sugars as much, those approaches
Yeah, that you just would never
really
think
can
of.
make a huge difference in your life and in your child's life.
Hmm.
Um, I I think that's great.
Yeah.
And also, you have a team of people as well as of other resources too to
Hmm.
offer expertise that you don't have.
Right.
I
And
mean,
I'm a coach. Yeah, I'm a coach in what I have, but inside my group, I have a nurse practitioner who's a medical nurse practitioner, so people can get prescriptions and things like that, and that kind of help when they need it. But I also have a
mhm,
practitioner in my group of the protocol that I teach. So like
right.
even today, she had, thrown something in there. Just someone their kid was having like a flu-like symptoms, and what she said, though they need calcium right now, that brings down a fever. I didn't know that. I learned so much from her every day,
Yeah.
so she comes on coaching once a month. I'm on every week, but we have her come on once a month, and you don't think I'm there learning from her every time she speaks? It's just, you just want to help people. And the
Yeah.
more I learn, the more I can help people.
No, that's cool. And I love it because I'm here too on my show talking about my journey,
Hmm.
but to hear about your journey and obviously the journey of a lot of others and the clients that you serve, you know, we all have these similarities. We walk similar paths and we can learn from each other. Um, and that's going to get us a lot farther down that path because you want to get to the point to where, I mean, if it's possible that you can reset,
Hmm.
um,
And you
why
really
wouldn't you
can.
you
With our kids, with this going back to the study of epigenetics, what they have found is so fascinating. Not, our gene, we've learned now that our genes are malleable. They're not set like we previously thought. I mean, in our lifetime,
hmm
in the 90s, we thought it's different. So it's amazing to have this light, this scientific light. But what they've also found is that if we can reset our children's immune system, so when upturned markers or DNA markers in the immune system are autoimmune diseases, downturned autoimmune markers is cancer, right? So any immune system dysregulation is, a recipe for
hmm
disease down the road. They're just two sides of the same coin, autoimmune disease and cancer. And that's why we want to only use those immune system, those medications as a tool, not as an end game, because it's shutting off your immune system. It's putting your body, in a position to where you're prone to cancer. Because again, your body's not fighting
Right.
any infections or disease. I mean, that's really what ends up happening. Um, so, oh man, what was I saying? So, the epigenetics, and that what they have found with epigenetics is that if we can modulate, that's what we can get our children's immune. So say all the markers are like this, that's what we
Mhm.
hand our kids, right? Some down, some this. Here you go, kid. But if we can modulate it, by the time they turn 19 years old, we could actually lock in the immune system locks in. They said 19.
Hmm.
And what they have found is that that will affect the next 6 to 8 generations. That that that's the power that
Wow.
we have in this day and age with this knowledge and the ripple effect and what we can do to heal our grandkids. you
Yeah.
know And so I hear it all the time. You talked about, we kind of, it takes like a year to change a habit. And it is
hmm
really hard at first for these moms. That's why I give them so much emotional support because it is hard. But then, like, after a year, like kind of like you said, or these kids, they're telling their friends, like, you shouldn't eat that. Or when their friends come over, they gobble up all the food that my client is making at the sleepover because these kids need this nourishment. They want it.
Yeah,
But
that's great.
yeah, a lot of the kids, they're like, what you're doing, these little boys even, they're gonna be like, I'm gonna do this with my kids. They get like, they're not dumb. They're not just doing it because they have to. They're learning. They're understanding how
Yeah.
these things are healing their body, and it's like their mind is so sharp and they understand, and it's affecting our future.
You know what? It's really like I said too, like about the decisions. I mean, we make a decision about what we eat
Hmm.
and what we don't eat. And, however that develops, I work with that with my son. My son is a very picky eater. I worry about his diet and I worry about his health and his future. Um, because I know how much food impacts your health. Um, my dad had switching to my dad had ALS, which could be a genetic condition.
Hmm.
And I asked them that's scary. I mean, now my dad had ALS that started in his throat. So he lost the ability to speak, which was kind of a blessing to all of us. I'm just kidding.
Nice.
It was the silver lining.
Joke.
No,
Yeah.
it was a joke. He had to listen to what we had to say for once, which
Mhm.
was kind of
Good.
nice.
Yeah.
But that's not the way ALS generally starts. I mean, it's a progressive disease that you lose control of your body.
Hmm.
You can't move, and you're basically just trapped in your mind.
Hmm.
Can't can't speak, can't drink, can't eat,
Hmm.
and I don't want that in my future. To me, that's like my
Doesn't
worst
have to be.
nightmare.
Yeah, and it doesn't
But
have to be. It's not like what we thought, like that, hey, that might just happen to you because you're dad. No,
yeah,
you have all the power in the world for that not to happen to you.
and you said that too about the. I remember that back in the 70s, I think, with breast cancer,
Hmm.
double mastectomy. If breast cancer ran in your family,
Yeah,
you're gonna get it, so might as well just cut them off now, right?
yeah.
But that was not what you're saying is that was not really the case.
No.
And we do have a lot more control, and that's another reason too why to go to a coach who's going to be staying up on top of the latest, and greatest information that
Hmm.
on that subject.
Yeah. It's interesting what you're telling me, not that this interview is a diagnostic, situation, but I'm kind of putting two and two together. Your daughter has stomach problems. Your son is picky, and I know you already had a little bit of things that you've already dealt with, so microbiome family, they really have the same thing. A lot of most, if not all, most of my clients, when they say, well, what is this, what are we going to be doing, because my kid is very picky, you almost can't have a issue like this and not be picky. And what I tell people is that your child is not picky. Is there something in our body called the gut brain axis? You might have
Mm-hmm.
heard about it, right? And now, yeah, we're going to
Yeah,
say
go
something.
ahead.
Okay, and so now what they're saying, what science is saying, is they're calling the gut the second brain. So I encourage you to look that up. And so what's happening in our guts because of the way things have, shifted, and we don't have the microbiome and the proper balance that we should. The fast acting, the more what we call bad bacteria, but that's, no pun intended, a can of worms.
Hmm.
Or I guess pun intended. But that bad bacteria, for just to simplify the term, it takes a stronghold. Well, the good bacteria, like you were saying, you feed it fiber and
Yeah.
sauerkraut, and that's what that good bacteria wants in order to procreate and to fill your gut lining. The bad bacteria wants fast sugars. So these kids that they just like brown food, white food,
Mm-hmm.
it's not them. It's their microbiome. And so my clients, they are shocked. We just had just one of my clients on coaching yesterday who just came in like maybe 3 weeks ago. She was like, at first, my daughter was like, I don't want that. I don't want that. And I'm like, oh, let them be. I mean, whatever. Just give them this or whatever, keep within what they can have, but let
Mm-hmm.
them choose. And she's like, Star, now she's eating. She's just gobbling it all up. And she's like, Mommy, can you make me more of that? Can you make me more of that? It was because we did work and we just flipped it. And that's what has to happen with your son. And it's also your daughter having pain in her stomach. It really all starts in the gut. But you don't have to have an upset stomach to have a leaky gut. Okay,
I
that
can
might,
understand that. Yeah.
right? So the disruption's happening here, right? So yeah, can
Like
there,
my issues, I didn't have gut issues.
yeah.
I ate everything in
Hmm.
great quantities.
Hmm.
I love
Yeah.
to eat. Love to eat. And it was so depressing, honestly, when I went to the allergist and got my test results and found out I was allergic, or sensitive
Yeah.
to all these, like, I don't know, 150, 200 foods. It
Hmm.
was I looked and thought, what the hell am I going to eat? It was it's such a horrible feeling, but it was so worth it. And I found replacements for the things that were causing me problems. Um, and I found a way around them.
Hmm.
The saddest, there's so many more options these days. Um, I tried the paleo diet for a while and I gave up gluten. I'm not sure if that was before or after. I think it was before I went to the allergist. But I learned that when I gave up gluten, like everything was great for a while, But then I started waking up in the middle of the night, 4 hours exactly, almost to the minute after I went to bed. Like I'd fall right asleep and I wake up and then I couldn't go back to sleep. I
Hmm.
was reading about it. It was because all the gluten had left my body, and it's kind of a known part of it is that your body's, not adjusted correctly
Right.
now. So you add in a little bit more gluten, and I did, and it just went away.
Hmm.
Slept normally again. But my son ate everything when he
Hmm.
was a kid. And then in elementary school, he went he went to school and he came home and he wouldn't eat any fruits or vegetables
Hmm.
since then.
Yeah.
Now he's opened up and he tries a lot of different foods now, but still
Right.
not really fruits or vegetables. But
Mhm.
it's interesting that you say that, so
But
how do
it's
you like it? I don't think he's having stomach issues
no,
necessarily,
probably
but
not. Yeah, but it's just it's one of those little things that you people in if your microbiome is healthy, your gut and is going to speak to your brain, and your brain is going to process to your taste buds what you need, and you're going to actually want those foods. So like I always tell my clients, we eat like kings and queens in the blueprint because we're eating animal products, and we are eating dairy products. I'm going to talk
mm-hmm.
about that. We prepare them in a certain way that makes them safe for the human body to consume. And we're eating, vegetables and cheese, but we got to get to that point. But you're eating like a feast of the
Yeah.
most highly deep, like superfoods, like deeply nutritious foods
Oh
that
yeah.
are like so yummy. Like you're never lacking. It's not like, when Serafina, just digress for a second, but when Serafina was first diagnosed, and this was before, leaky gut was known and before really kids were getting autoimmune diseases, my gut reaction was like raw vegan, right? That's what we knew in the 80s and 90s, right? Raw vegan. That's what I thought we were going to do. Anti-inflammatory, lots of vegetables. It's actually
Mm-hmm.
it was counterintuitive, but it made perfect sense that like heals like. If we're going to rebuild the gut lining, we need materials
Yeah.
that are like our gut lining. So we're paleo, just because you mentioned it, but the carnivore is real popular now. People will
Mm-hmm.
get relief with those diets too, but not full healing. Because yes, usually with those diets, what's happening is we're eating whole foods now, so our body's going to respond and say, "Ah, I feel so much better." And with the carnivore diet, it's so anti-inflammatory because you're not having any grains whatsoever, really not even any vegetables, which, can turn to sugar in the body, cause
Mm-hmm.
gas. People say, man, I just started eating steak and eggs and butter and cheese, and that's it. And my stomach problems went away, and my
But
joint pain went
that's
away.
older people though, right?
Yeah, well,
Or
but
kids.
it's not sustainable.
Right.
My point.
Okay.
You can't how long can you just eat? If you ever hear Dr. Jordan Peterson and his daughter
Mm-hmm.
Michaela, they talk about the carnivore diet, and she had arthritis. So they're in a very similar situation.
Okay.
And he says, all I eat is steak and salt and water, and I'm miserable. But I don't feel crazy. And if I come off that diet, I feel crazy because
Hmm.
they're not healing the root cause. So you
Yeah.
are bringing down the inflammation, you're getting that symptomatic relief, but you're not. So, really, what we want, yeah, we eat the meat because we need to, there's nutrition in it. We fill the hole. We want the connective tissue. We want those little nibbly bits on the ends of the chicken bone. We want that silver skin that's between the meat and the bone. We really want to cook those bones and get that glutamine out and drink that. We need to rebuild the gut lining with things that are made of gut lining.
Okay.
And so it's a like heals like, it's homeopathic in that way. So that it's not just a, oh, eat these foods, don't eat these foods, but there's a reason. There's a real scientific proven reason why we're consuming these foods and only these foods for now. And the goal is that eventually you're going to heal to the point where that you can have gluten. that you can have dairy,
Mm-hmm.
that you can consume some sugar because you'll be healed. Because really what's happening, John, and like, with the dairy, think about the junctions in your gut are leaky. So what's happening is that milk is very high in protein. And that's really what the immune system is detecting. It's those proteins in the gluten, the
Mm-hmm.
proteins in the egg whites, the proteins in the milk. So these are all staples of the human being for
Right.
thousands of years are now our biggest enemy. And it's not that there's anything wrong with dairy. Well, it's processed and ultra pasteurized, and that's another subject because it's not really in the form that nourishes us.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that food particles are getting into the bloodstream and the immune system is saying you do not belong here, and it gets those proteins. And so we take these allergy tests and it comes up, like you said, 150 foods that we absolutely
Mm-hmm.
can't eat, and we get rid of those foods and we feel better. But then we start eating other foods, and years will go by. We start eating other foods, and then all of a sudden it's like, man, like I don't feel good again. And you go and do the allergy test again. All those foods are going to come up. And so what an elimination diet will eventually do is malnourish you because a
Hmm.
lot of those foods that it's saying you can't eat are actually probably very nutrient dense and needed by the human body. The problem is that they're getting in the bloodstream. Not that you have any problem with it, because you look at our mouth, all the enzymes in our mouth, how we break things down. I mean, it's like acidic, right? It's very highly acidic, goes through the digestive tract, we use it, for nourishment. There's all these villi in the digestive tract that
Right.
absorb all the nutrition, goes in the gut, breaks it down. We use what we use, poop out the rest. There should never be a problem, right? Because why would that be a problem? It's because the food is leaving that that place and going out to where the human body has never seen that, ever seen a piece of broccoli in the blood ever until now. So strawberries are a
Hmm.
big one that people tend to. So there's certain things,
Really? Hmm.
yeah, that the immune system seems to really target, like on that first round. But what ends up happening with the elimination diet, if we don't really seal and really get to the real, root is, oh, it's milk, it's dairy, these are causing me problems. But I go deeper. Why is milk causing me?
Yeah.
Should
I'll
it?
just say that I eliminated it for about a month.
Hmm.
I think I was supposed to do it for 2 weeks, but I wanted to do more.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure it was all out. Um, so I waited a month and I started reintroducing. And what I found is that different food made me feel different ways.
Hmm.
I mean, it's like, I mean, I would get, I mean, I don't know how to describe it. It sounds kind of weird, honestly, if I hear myself saying, but I mean, it's like, well, I mean, I guess it's not really too far off. I mean, if you have an alcoholic drink, you're going to catch a buzz. So why is that so far off that if you eat food, you're going to feel a certain way?
Hmm.
I'm not saying that you're buzzed from the food. I'm just saying
It could sometimes make your heart like palpitate or something. Is that what you mean? Or
yeah, I
you
mean,
get
like,
different feelings like
so
that?
for me, the refined sugar was causing Mortimer,
Right.
in my gut.
Hmm.
Um, and I look back at that time, and it's so easy to look at life circumstances, and stress certainly plays a huge part in this. When all this was happening, when all this came to head, my childhood friend was diagnosed with brain cancer, and he was a co-host of the show.
Hmm.
So, I mean, work was suffering, my marriage was suffering, my friend was had a terminal illness, you know, everything felt like it was crashing. So what was I doing? Eating a lot of Reese's peanut butter
Hmm.
cups.
Yeah.
I was probably eating 6 or 7 times the recommended amounts of sugar. A lot of sugar
Right.
and not really thinking that much about it.
Because you could always handle it.
It was never an issue
Yeah.
for me. And
Yeah.
it's right. Going back to kind of the beginning of the conversation, we eat things, we don't necessarily feel anything
Mm-mm.
from it, but it affects us.
Yeah. and like you said, everybody's so differently. So, and because of that, it's like so nuanced. You would never think that they're all
Yeah,
connected to
right.
one thing. You would think, no, this is very personal. This is my, it's like, yeah, it's just it's affected, it's going out into your body and going to this area for you, that area for her, that area for him. And everybody's getting it to different degrees because everybody's in a different constitution when it
I
happens.
think I think it's like a detective story too. You kind of have to trace things down
Yeah.
and figure things out and recognize too that as you're tracing things down, as you get one problem solved or one question answered, excuse me, another question is going to pop up as a result.
Yeah.
Another issue will arise.
Right.
And people get so surprised when this happens, but life is full of ups and downs,
Mm-hmm.
good and bad.
Yeah.
It's a combination. It's never going to stay the same,
Right.
but it's a
That's the
learning.
only constant, right?
Yeah, yeah, except from vending machines. But now you have a credit card you can use, so that's not even an issue anymore. Um, no, it's cool. I mean, I really like what I'm getting out of this whole conversation too, is this is a process
Mhm.
and that you have a group assembled that are going to help a lot of people, parents, and their children who are suffering from juvenile arthritis.
Mhm.
And it's not only going to help the child, but it's going to help the parents and the family. And I guess, yeah, the parents, siblings, and it's going to
Mhm.
help your family.
Right.
Um, and it's going at the root cause, not putting a band-aid on it.
Mhm. And that's really it, is that it's, you come into the JIA Blueprint because of your JIA child, but it's never, these types of things never happen in a bubble. So now the doctor inside my group, together, we're building a new program. It's called the Family Health Revolution Blueprint.
Hmm,
And so this is
that's cool.
it's operated, yeah, exactly the same format as the JIA Blueprint, except it's for the entire family lifetime access, right? So we know that, dad's psoriasis and mom's thyroid disease and, little Jenny's learning disability and her brother's juvenile arthritis all have the same root cause. And so the whole family can get on board and do it together. And it's,
And
so
support
really,
each other.
and support each other. And that
Yeah.
really is what happens because for to do what we do inside the blueprint, the whole family really does have to get on board. Like I don't I don't enroll every single person that shows interest or, because like you had said earlier, like it's a lot of work, to do
Yeah.
this. Like what you were willing to do, not everybody would be willing to do. And the fact of the matter is just because you have a child with juvenile arthritis doesn't mean you're a fit for the JIA blueprint because this is really, and this doesn't mean in any kind of, I mean, everybody has a different approach to how they
Right.
want to do things. But definitely a certain type of personality, certain type of family that's really like, oh no, we're doing the right thing. We're doing 100%, well, right, wrong, but you know what I mean? Like this is what they view as the right thing, and we're going to dedicate 100% like your karate kind of a thing. It's a
Hmm.
certain kind of family that is drawn to the level of work that we do because it is so deep, it is so intensive. I become like, I'm like a family member. Like everybody in your family and friends knows
Yeah,
of
yeah.
who I am.
Well,
Kind
that's part of the community that you're building.
that's it. And that's that ripple effect, and my functional doctor, he feels the same way. And that's really what we came together on. He's on a mission. He wants the medical community to understand, about these things. And that's a really hard thing to do. So he focuses on nurse practitioners, really getting in the ear of nurse practitioners. He really sees them as the future of the
Hmm.
medical industry. They just have more of that holistic leaning and tend to be, a little bit less
Hmm.
prescription oriented and a little more curious, maybe because they have more time, maybe because a lot of them are women. I don't mean to say that but we are made up different. I'm not sure the reason why.
Yeah.
But we were both on a mission, that really we want this to ripple out. And if we can affect this generation of families and then their kids, theirs, and then by then, you have things grow, that's exponentially,
Right.
so it might not even take as much or as long as we think, but that's the goal, is that people understand that we need to go back to the way that we were living as much as we can. I mean, not go back to the way we were living, like difficult, but like to understand these principles and how our bodies are designed to eat. Although we're getting further along technologically, our bodies are still our bodies. They're not going to
Yeah.
be robots and
But
start.
really, I think it's just addressing health and being
Yes.
at the doing whatever you need to do to be
Yeah.
healthy
Yeah.
and recognizing what health really means.
Hmm.
Like I said before, I wasn't suffering, like my stomach wasn't upset. Um, I felt maybe kind of blah, I guess. A lot of people say, "Oh, you're middle aged.
Yeah.
You're getting older." That's just part of getting older.
No,
And I think that's a bunch
doesn't
of
have to
bull.
be.
You don't have to accept that.
Mm-mm.
Um, and I know that's so off base with juvenile
No,
arthritis.
but it's all
It,
connected, and that's
yeah, it
why we're
is.
growing into this, program, because yeah, I don't mean to cut you off, but we're not just dealing with autoimmune issues. We're dealing
Right.
with, now that I have a medical functional doctor with me, I feel more, even though I know it's not my story, but I feel, I have that backing now, that I have had clients in my group with siblings that have had autism. They came in for the blueprint, and the autistic child is healed. The autistic nonverbal child speaks, time and time again. But since it's not my story and I'm not a medical doctor, there's that, like, oh,
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm
and
not
now
a
I
medical
have,
doctor either.
yeah, but I mean, we're helping neurological conditions, hormonal conditions, chronic illness. We have someone in our group with cancer, like we're able to help so many people. That's all, like what you're saying. Maybe it's off base from juvenile arthritis, and that is my starting point and my story, and I'll always have the
Hmm.
JIA blueprint. But go ahead, because it's okay that it's off JIA, because it really is all connected, regardless of what we
Yeah,
got
you
going.
know what? And this show has always been about provoking thought,
Mm,
getting people to hear a different perspective
mm,
or see things in a different way or learn a little tidbit of knowledge that is going to help them live a better life.
hmm.
That that's why I'm here. That's why I keep doing this because it is personal to me. I always, you know, it's therapy for me a lot
Yeah.
of times. I get a lot of my own questions answered, uh, and I find direction that helps me and my family. And I just hope, that it helps others. And in fact, I know it does. And that again, it keeps me going.
Hmm.
So, I think we've probably been going at wow, we've
An
been
hour and a
going at
half.
we've been going at this a long time. This time has flew by.
Yes.
I had scheduled like an hour. This is going to be a long episode, but so worthwhile. And I think and I hope a lot of the listeners are going to get a lot out of this.
I hope so too.
Um, if you're interested in Starr's work and her life's mission right now, uh, JIA
Hmm.
Blueprint.com.
.com. Or
But
I, or even at gmail.com.
yeah, but you can find her. She's all over the place now. YouTube channel,
Hmm.
um, YouTube channel, Facebook.
Hmm. And TikTok. I
Tik
don't, I have an Instagram page, but I can't get into all of them. So,
I
but
understand. I
yeah.
understand. But Starr, thank you so much for your
Thank you.
time and all the information that you shared. This was so very valuable, and just keep me updated about
I
what's going
will.
on with this.
All right. Yeah, we'll do it again.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Hope you got your ass moving. Until then, until the next time, I'm out of here. Peace.